Hello everybody, WhatCulture's Adam Cleary here, and today I would like to talk to you about WWE for a change. Not so very long ago, another one of the great men TM, Andy Murray, stood atop the board of content and did a big old deep dive into how WWE getting into bed with the UK indie scene was always going to end with them trying to dismantle it. Now, if you've not seen it, you should go watch that because it's quite good. Now, that video is a great case study on WWE's global localization policy. It's a very good look at the localization aspect of it. But today, I sort of wanted to pose the question of what happens when we bring the global aspect into it. What's going to happen when they get their wish and they can roll out this whole thing across the world? Actually, before I start, I just want to read out this CM Punk quote to you. I thought I was good, you know? I really thought I was good, and then I got into the ring with Eddie Guerrero, and I was like, holy crap, am I bad? That was the big step up in competition. That was the big test, but it gave me that attainable goal. Keep that in mind. Anyway, to the beginning, and as reported to the week by the lovely handsome folks at WrestleTalk, WWE has renegotiated their contract with their UK talent. We say renegotiated, you suspect there probably wasn't a lot of actual negotiating involved, and they can now only work, they can't work anywhere else except for Progress, ICW, OTT, WXW, Fight Club Pro, and Attack Pro Wrestling. More than that though, they're also not allowed to wrestle against somebody who is signed to another major promotion. So none of the stars of Ring of Honor, New Japan, or World of Sport. So just to reiterate, a very short list of promotions they can work for and a very long list of people they're not allowed to wrestle. No restrictions. That was William Regal's words when he unveiled this in 2016. No restrictions. Now, that's all the UK stuff, and as I say, Andy has already covered that in his video. But the really interesting one there for me is WXW, because of course they're not a part of the UK scene. They are the big German promotion, which means they are the first tiny seedling of this model, which has led to these absurd contracts and NXT UK becoming an established brand. They are the first seedling of that model being rolled out across the globe. Obviously, I can't speak for WWE, but you would imagine if they're trying to roll this out across the world, you'd have NXT UK, then possibly NXT Europe, maybe NXT Japan, and then similar models in both the Middle East and South America. We know they want to franchise this, so if you're doing it, those are the big territories they're going to want to hit. So what's the problem with that, I hear you ask? What does it matter if all of our wrestling comes under the same slick, well-produced, well-financed, well-paid banner? What does it matter if we get all of our wrestling from the same company, or at least from a subsidiary of the same company? Well, the problem is that WWE doesn't do wrestling, do they? They do sports entertainment. You might think I'm just splitting hairs here, but honestly, this is quite important because to WWE, sports entertainment is better than pro wrestling because sports entertainment killed pro wrestling sometime between the 80s and the 90s. They hate wrestling, which is why they refuse to actually even use the terminology. A few examples just to illustrate my point here. Goldberg went to WWE in 2003 and became a sports entertainment babyface, which was fine, but it meant that he pissed all over his destructive WCW aura in the process. Daniel Bryan was this peerless, technical wrestling machine, the likes of which we'd not seen for many, many, many years, and at the height of his WWE run, he had to start incorporating these Cena-esque random big moves in it. CM Punk hit a pile driver in 2013, and we all thought it was the biggest middle finger anyone had given the company in ages. You can't do that! We all said they don't let you do that. I'm not just talking about moves here, by the way. We all know moves are incidental to the best in-ring stories, but because of this sports entertainment model, the way WWE tells its stories is incredibly rigid, and Punk, Styles, Bryan, Joe, Balor, anybody else they've picked up from outside the company has been unable to change that. Long story short, in WWE, babyfaces sell and sell and sell and sell and sell and sell. Finn Balor, win or lose, gets beaten up every single week. Ronda Rousey sold for Alexa Bliss for minutes at Hell in a Cell. There were stretches of that match that were absolutely absurd, but it's just the way WWE does things. I could do an entire other video on why they do this. I'm contractually obligated to do all that. Sorry, but the short answer is it's all just a throwback to the enormous success they had with Hulk Hogan and John Cena, and they are effectively mass producing a model that they know makes them lots and lots and lots of money, and fair enough, I guess. Thus, the point I'm trying to make here is that if this local globalization strategy is successful, if WWE can lure all the best stars from all the different territories into region-specific WWE branded promotions, the entire face of wrestling will change. You won't see somebody like Minoru Suzuki drill somebody's skull with a cradle piledriver. You won't see somebody like Tomohiro Ishii bust somebody's brains. And let's face it, Okada is not an enduring, safe pair of hands known intimately to WWE for decades, so he's going to have to retire that tombstone. I mean, who does he think he is? Kane? Right now, the only living, breathing example of this local globalization policy is NXT UK, and in a word that has been so far indistinct, I would say. Now, don't get me wrong, I've genuinely enjoyed watching that product. I think the guys and girls involved have put on some amazing matches, the main events especially, but it hasn't done anything to differentiate itself from things that are already out there. It's obviously very much like the original NXT, but of course, that already exists. The problem is that it resonates as, because it very much is, a cynical, hastily cobbled together wrestling product with no real selling point of its own. It hasn't got the camp or ultra-violence of ICW, it hasn't got the technical mastery of a Progress show, it's just WWE wrestling, but in the UK. The crowds, to their credit at these shows, have been absolutely amazing so far because of the new buzz and the new excitement of it all, but by and large the performers come out, do their signature pose, keep their eyes fixed on the ring, go down, signature pose again, play to the hard cam, pretty much ignore the audience, and that's pretty much it. The matches themselves have been absolutely exceptional, but that is because the people in them have been spending years and years and years and years honing their craft across the globe against all manner of other wrestlers. On this evidence, NXT Europe would just be WWE style wrestling, but in Europe with European wrestlers, and NXT Japan will just be WWE style wrestling, but in Japan with Japanese wrestlers. The same for the Middle East, the same for South America, but the problem with that is that British, European, Japanese, South American, Middle East, and every single territory, their fans, their audiences want different things out of both their shows and their wrestlers. The wrestlers that come from these parts of the world are very different in terms of style. The variety you get in the indies is precisely what makes it so great, and it's the one thing WWE would want to get rid of. So that CM Punk quote I read you at the start and asked you to remember, do you think he would have become the same personality, the same performer, the same wrestler he did had he not been able to wrestle a man like Eddie Guerrero, who, let's not forget, grew up in a different part of the world, learned entirely different styles, worked for entirely different promotions? Well, according to him, no, he wouldn't have. Without the variety of the indies and the ability to go all over and wrestle against whoever you want, whoever people want to see you wrestle, you don't get CM Punks, you don't get AJ Styles, you don't get Daniel Bryans, you don't get Balor's, Joes, and whoever's. You get sports entertainment. So now that every single wrestler who signs up for one of these globally localized business plans is contractually unable to work with the more experienced, more varied hands of the likes of Ring of Honor, New Japan, etc., and instead has to work the same old faces, many of whom are as inexperienced as they are, how do you expect them to become the big stars of the future? How do you expect them to develop in that way? I don't think you can. I think all you're going to get is a load of Mizes and Randy Ortons, who aren't bad wrestlers, but where's the variety? The bottom line here is that as the WWE universe expands, so too must the art of pro wrestling shrink. They've done it in the past, and if history has taught us one thing about this company, it's that they always go back to what they know. Now, in closing, I would just like to balance this out slightly by saying there are obviously a number of massive upsides for the performance here. More wrestlers will be financially comfortable and globally recognized. More of them will work less punishing, much safer schedules. For those who get on the gravy train, things will be better, but sadly the wrestling will not be, because none of it will be wrestling, it'll all be sports entertainment. But yes, that's just me. I'm far more interested to know what you all think, so leave me a comment below, and of course don't forget to like, share and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter, boom, I'm a legend, and WhatCulture Wrestling on Twitter here as well. In the meantime though, thank you very much for watching. I have of course been Adam Cleary, and I will see you soon. Laters, bye, toodles.